I'm Elex Michaelson. This week the issue is the Summit of the Americas.
We talk exclusively with the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, her husband, second Gentleman Doug Emhoff, and the Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, as a very special edition of The Issue Is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, you're watching The Issue Is.
These are flags of the different countries that are represented here at the Summit of the Americas at downtown Los Angeles, bringing together Western Hemisphere leaders and led by the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
President Biden leads the U.S. delegation in a series of meetings with world leaders. He announces the Los Angeles Declaration on Migration Protection, try and cut back on illegal immigration.
The leaders of the Americas to the City of Angels.
The event also putting a global spotlight on California Governor Gavin Newsom. He hosts heads of state like Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, California signing a joint memo on climate change with Canada. The two sharing some laughs.
Aesthetically, you look like you could be brothers or at least cousins.
I'm the younger brother, right?
Yeah, he's the. He reminded me he's the younger brother.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Afterwards, Newsom speaks exclusively with us.
Governor Newsom, welcome back to The Issue Is. Great to see you.
Good to be
I
back.
think it's been 6 months since we've done this. This is
That
our longest break.
Legitimately long for us. It's true.
So it's good to have you back. So here we are at the Summit of the Americas. California, obviously on the world stage, hosting this for the first time.
Yeah.
California, though, isn't a country, even though it's bigger than many of the countries that are here. Where do you see California's place in all this and its place in the world?
Yeah, I joked when introducing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that he needs to help us get into the G7 because we're the fifth largest economy in the world, $6 trillion a year economy, the most diverse state in the world's most diverse democracy, and we play an essential role as it relates to the Americas, particularly as it relates to that diversity here in Southern California, which is well established. And it's a point of pride living in a state, it's a majority minority state, in a state that's truly universal in terms of, I think, our values. And so appropriate that the Summit of Americas, North America, Central and South America, have convened here. And it's appropriate that we highlight the strength of those relationships historically, strength of those relationships as it relates to families, and strengths as it relates to our economic opportunities moving forward.
And part of this, of course, the president comes here in town. You met him at Air Force One with your kids.
Yeah,
Quite a bring your kids to work day.
Yeah, no, I finally am a cool dad.
What was that like? What did he say to them? What did they say to him?
Well, he was exactly what you'd expect him to be, which is beyond gracious. And I got to tell you, it was one of those, it's interesting, when I got in the car, I was talking to my staff, I said, you know what, if I hear anyone attack the character of the President of the United States anymore, I just can't take it. This is one of the most decent, honorable human beings. Again, forget politics. Just as a human being, connecting with other people and knowing how important it is to connect to someone's kids. And he took all the extra time in the world, said all the right things, and the kids are on cloud nine. And it's not just my kids. You see that with him. You've seen that over his entire career. But yeah, look, that was a thrill. Got him out of going to Disneyland. I figured maybe Air Force One would be, and that was hard to do.
I know, Splash Mountain's pretty great, though.
All right, so legit. So I still have to make up for that, but it wasn't a bad backup.
Yeah, but I know in the past we've talked, you even brought them into the room when you talked with President Trump in the past because you wanted them to see sort of this interaction,
Yeah.
right?
No, I mean, I want them to respect, you don't have to agree with people, but you have to respect them. I remember we had a very good working relationship with President Trump. I mean, that's not an easy thing for a Democrat to say. Few would even acknowledge it, if even true. But that's important. And, you can disagree. And we've taken shots. President Trump used to take shots plenty. We went back and forth on Twitter and the like. But at the end of the day, you got to figure out ways of working together. And I think, look, right now, everybody's finding crowbars to put in the spokes of the wheel of the other party. And we're just tearing each other down at a point where really the anxiety is boiling. And you're seeing it boiling over. Obviously, you saw that on January 6th. It's a tough time. And I think we have to take time to be a little more empathetic and other people oriented.
And in the midst of all of that, we have elections here as well. You had an election this week.
Yeah.
Didn't even have an election watch party.
What
was that decision
I won't even tell you
about?
what I was doing when the polls closed. No, exactly. I was by myself. Working just on my emails and working a little bit on the budget. It was a surreal thing.
I mean, is that weird? Why that decision?
Well, I guess we got a budget we got to get done next week, but also, there's nothing you can do on Election Day, and it's awkward to celebrate at halftime. I mean, it's June, and one thing I know in politics, November is a lifetime away. It's not just a few months away. In political terms, so much can change. So humility, get to work, focus, especially when you're incumbent. It's a very different thing. And so we watched closely, and I just want to congratulate a lot of folks that were in races that came short, folks that won in Assembly, Senate races, local school board races. It was disappointing to see the turnout, particularly because we made it so easy to vote, even providing people stamps so they don't have to pay for the return of the ballot. But hopefully in November that will change.
Are you going to debate Brian Dahle?
Honestly, I haven't even thought about that. You've just asked that question, I assume.
Yes.
At some point, I think that's a requirement of sorts in terms of tradition and expectation. Who knows, though?
I know you did a radio debate last time, but if you want to do a TV debate, we're happy,
here it
happy
is.
to
Here's the
host
official invite.
Let's talk about some of the other results of this week. Of course, you used to be the mayor of San Francisco. You know that community so well.
Yeah.
The Chesa Boudin recall. What do you think is the message that voters are sending to everybody when it comes to crime with that recall?
Nothing about that was surprising, and none of it about that was particularly warranted the attention nationally as some arbiter of something farther reaching. I thought it was the punditry was a little overwhelming on it. I think, though, the issue in San Francisco in particular is people want the streets cleaned up. Period, full stop. Enough. They want the streets cleaned up. They want a sense of order from the disorder they're feeling on the streets. Now, crime's a component of that, but there's a lot of conflation of those issues. The mental health issues out there, the open drug use, not just drug dealing, the dirtiness of parts of the city. And tag, the DA was it, meaning there was some attachment of accountability and responsibility. It's felt by everybody up there, all the electeds, but in particular, the district attorney.
But doesn't the Democrats bear some responsibility for that? I mean, you guys have been in charge there forever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But forever we haven't, I mean, we've had issues up there, but they haven't been as intense as some of the issues that have manifested. But that being said, there's cities all across the country with those same issues. That's interesting is how focused we are on a number of California cities. I mean, there was just an analysis of the 65 cities with the highest murder rates. California had 2 cities, LA and San Francisco weren't even on the list. And 2/3 of the cities were in Republican states. You look at places like Bakersfield, California. Kern County is the murder capital of California. Kern County, Republican sheriff, Republican DA, Republican mayors, Kevin McCarthy's backyard. But that's not what you're seeing on the nightly news. It's a surround sound hit on 1 or 2 iconic San Francisco, LA, California cities. And it's right to focus on where we need to improve. That's a fact. But it's not necessarily unique and distinctive.
And of course, crime at the heart of the LA mayor's race as well. Do you have a favorite in that race? Rick Caruso, Karen Bass?
They've been friends. I mean, I hate, like when I say, like, full disclosure, nothing worse than hearing a politician in your interview say, I have 2 friends in the race. I actually have known Rick for years. He was on our economic development task force that we created during COVID and was incredibly helpful and supportive of our efforts at state level. Karen Bass, we've all known for decades, and she's been a remarkable leader going back well before my time, even in politics. I have deep respect for both of them, and I've not gotten involved in that race, or in this race, as it relates to the race today or even prior to the primary.
Let's talk about the budget for a moment. What's the deal with the gas tax rebate? Why hasn't a deal gotten done yet?
Well, we're just doing it in the context of the budget. And so in a few weeks, we'll quite literally get that done and we'll start processing those checks. The question is the size. Legislature has about an $8 billion proposal. I think it should be much higher. Ours is around $11.5 billion. I want those checks to go out faster. We have a process. We think we get the checks out faster. The enormity of the challenge, self-evidence, not just gas, it's rent and obviously food costs, inflation generally. It would be the single largest rebate, statewide tax rebate in U.S. history, even bigger than last year's $9 billion tax rebate, which was sizable. 2 years, $20 billion back to the people of the state of California, directly in their pockets, not in the pockets of oil companies, not in the pockets of corporations or even gas station owners. That's why our approach is a direct rebate that quickly gets back into people's pockets that we believe can get up to $600 in some cases, even higher in others.
The last time that we were together was right after that draft decision leaked on Roe v. Wade, and you were as passionate as I've ever seen you talking about,
where the hell's my party? Where's the Democratic Party? Why aren't we standing up more firmly, more resolutely?
and since then, the same could be said about guns. Where the hell is the National Democratic Party in terms of action on that? What's going on there?
I don't know.
Even since you talked about Roe, nothing has changed.
No, I mean, we're going to be moving forward affirmatively with a constitutional amendment, just codifying what we have in statute. But it's an organizing mechanism, and it's a way of at least affirming our position in the state. So we're going to take some leadership there. And on guns, as you know, we're doing this private right of action modeled after the Texas abortion model, which is a very aggressive step. And that should land on my desk in a matter of weeks. Mark my word, that is a significant initiative and effort that will have, we think, real consequences in terms of getting illegal guns off the street. All of that being said, what is going on in the Democratic Party nationwide? I cannot answer that question. And I pose that question out of frustration, reflection, and some parts of the Democratic Party were critical of that. But overwhelming response to that statement, I don't have an answer for you. Joe Biden's not the head of the Democratic Party. I mean, he happens to be president of the United States. It's not his job to organize at all levels the Democratic Party. That's the Democratic Party's responsibility. And I don't want to take a cheap shot. It's not an individual gripe with anybody. It has nothing to do with Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer. They are not the heads of the party as well. We have a Democratic Party. And yeah, where the hell are we as a party to capture the narrative, to capture the imagination of the American people? You had a guy, Ron DeSantis in Florida, that just went after the most vulnerable Americans, the Special Olympics. And he gets away with it. He's celebrated. Special Olympians. He's attacking the Special Olympics, not just Disneyland. What the hell is happening in this country? And I'll tell you, the only thing that could stop it is the Democratic Party. So yeah, as a Democrat, but also as a guy with 4 kids, I'm a little bit animated and intensely frustrated at this moment.
So what's your advice? And if those guys aren't the leaders of the Democratic Party, who is? Who are you
Well,
looking for?
we have a party.
Yeah.
There is something called the Democratic Party.
Right.
I've read about it.
Yeah.
And and I've met a few of these people over the years. It's not even an indictment of the current leadership. It's time to organize, guys, bottom up, not just top down. Republicans have been organizing bottom up forever. They're organizing Secretary of State races all across this country. They're organizing state legislatures religiously. That's why in all these red states, they're converted. Most of the progress of the 21st century is being completely wiped out the last 50 years in the last 15 weeks in all these Republican states. So it's a really important and powerful moment in terms of I hope, waking us up to the world we're living in that goes well beyond just abortion and guns, but are punctuated by what's happening with guns or lack thereof, and obviously an issue of freedom of choice.
Lastly, when we started The Issue Is 4 years ago, you were our first guest talking about the primary to run for governor of California and to think about how different the world was 4 years ago and what a journey you have been on since. How do you even sort of comprehend this last 4 years?
I think for all of us in our own lives, your own professional lives, anyone that's watching right now, I mean, I think that's a question we can all, we all reflect on. I hope we reflect on, because I think it's important for us to reflect on that. I think one of the real challenges we have right now is people that aren't taking care of themselves, and aren't being more reflective, aren't appreciating the journey they've individually been on. And I hope people take time and open up about that, because we all need to decompress. It's been incredibly challenging for years. Stacking of crisis, stacking of stress. Mm-hmm. And those crises and stress are continuing to stack in so many different ways. That's why we, by the way, put up billions of dollars, the most comprehensive master plan for mental health, not just for what's happening on the streets, but for adolescent mental health. It's $4.5 billion for all our kids 0 to 25. Can't invest that money soon enough.
How do you find that space?
Just talking about it more. Talking about all of us just finding that space to, I talk to my staff about just take time. Yeah. You don't need to, guys, just take time. Your kids, take the time. Everybody needs time. No one should apologize for asking for a few extra hours, a few extra days, a few extra minutes. Or can I just skip this? People just need to take some time. And if they don't, man, we've been on this treadmill the last few years, and people are burning out. And and when it hits you hard. And I'm really excited about the future, but I hope we can get through the present and take care of ourselves and come out stronger on the other side.
Well, speaking of time, I'm out of time and way over time. So thank you for being generous with your time, Governor Gavin Newsom. Thank you so much.
Good to be back with you.
Up next, we catch up with the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Our very own, the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
The Summit of the Americas, providing a global stage for Vice President and California native Kamala Harris.
Madam Vice President, welcome home.
Hi,
Good to have you
be
back
home.
here
It's
in
really
California.
great to be home.
We spent several days in the VP's motorcade.
The freeway on this side is totally emptied for the VP. On the other side, lots of traffic.
She meets with local faith leaders, business leaders, and tours the summit. Her focus? Increasing public-private partnerships to help deal with migration challenges.
What does it mean for you to be at a summit like this in your home state as one of the leaders of it?
One of the important components of the summit, from my perspective, is the work that we've been doing with the call to action, which is bringing CEOs together at historic numbers to invest in the northern part of Central America. And we announced yesterday that as a result of the work that we only started a year ago, we've already raised $3.2 billion, which is about investing in these countries that are our neighbors as the United States, because we are also a member of the Western Hemisphere. And one of the things that is without question, when we are able to improve the prosperity and stability of our neighbors, we as a nation benefit. Tell me about your work.
The Vice President also touring the Dream Big Children's Center in Monrovia. Christina Cordero founded this spot in 2016, a space where kids with special needs can safely play.
The reason that I've been hearing about her work is not only because of what she does in such a loving way to help parents parent, but she did it through the pandemic when she, for just a short while, was under the threat that so many small businesses were of closing. And the parents that she serves were desperate to know that she would be able to stay open. And she did. And parents bring their children here 5 days a week for 4 hours a day. The parents of this community rely on the support that she gives their children throughout these early stages of their development. And if she had to close down, it would have had a profound, if not lifelong, impact on those children, much less their families. So I'm here to highlight the importance of our small businesses because they do this out of love.
During this whirlwind week, the VP has some familiar comforts.
It's actually great to be here.
And it's in particular, it's kind of nice that it just happens to be in Los Angeles where I live, so it's been nice to be home for a change.
Up next,
Good to see you, Elex. Good to see you again.
we catch up with the VP's husband as he tours extraordinary new technology aimed at combating hate.
We believe in you.
First Lady Jill Biden in town for the Summit of the Americas, but taking time to talk about one of the things she's most passionate about, community colleges, giving the commencement address at LA City College. Meanwhile, the second gentleman of the United States, Doug Emhoff, came to his university, USC, where he went to law school, to talk about something he's really passionate about, countering hate, at the extraordinary Shoah Foundation.
Pincus, how did you survive?
How did I survive?
Yes.
I survived, I believe, because Providence watched over me.
Doug Emhoff speaks to an artificial intelligence version of a real-life man, Pincus Gutter, who survived 6 German concentration camps during World War II.
Good to see you, Elex. Good to see you again.
Emhoff talks about the experience exclusively with us.
You are literally having a real conversation, and you saw what I saw. We walked out literally thinking we were just with Pincus.
Later, Emhoff zooms with the flesh and blood version of Pincus, now in his 9th decade.
One of the most important aspects of survival is to overcome fear.
It's just incredible.
Hi, my name is Elex. What's your name?
Hello, my name is Pinchas Gutter.
Back in November 2019, we did one of the first stories on this technology, innovated by USC's Shoah Foundation, which is founded by director Steven Spielberg. Pincus, among the survivors recruited for the Dimensions and Testimony Project, each of them answering over 1,000 questions over 5 days in front of 100 cameras.
This is really the place where we welcome people.
This visit is personal for Emhoff, a USC law grad who happens to be the spouse of the vice president. He's both the first man and the first Jew in that role.
Being in this role, you get to do some amazing things, but to come back to my school, my hometown, and to experience the Shoah put together by Steven Spielberg and others, it's truly humbling.
The Shoah Foundation's Corey Street says the administration showing up here means a lot.
To have that kind of a platform here at USC is amazing.
Many of these testimonies here are about World War II, but it's not just World War II that they're focused on here. Recently, they've been collecting testimonies in Ukraine to help potentially the International Criminal Court.
Every day it feels like there's more and more manifestations of hatred.
It's history repeating itself, and as Pink has made clear, and as we all know, again, it's not just a Jewish issue. It's an issue for all of us. Hate rears its ugly head all over the world. And this exhibit here is part of that aspect of just telling the truth. Here are people who actually survived this, telling their stories, and those stories are true.
If you want to talk to Pincus, you can. Just go to eyewitness.usc.edu and start your conversation.
Up next, the president at the port.
We end this week at the Port of Los Angeles. Behind me, the USS Iowa, where President Biden came to talk about inflation and complain about 9 foreign shipping companies he says are ripping off Americans.
The ripoff is over.
Inflation, one of the many challenges that President Biden faces in the months ahead. We will cover all of it, but we end this week with music from the inaugural festivities at the summit and the names of those who made this show possible. Thanks for watching. The Issue Is.
Love will always win.